Hello, YouTube. I just wanted to make a quick little unedited video talking about my opinions on the drag community. Ignore my background. If you look at it too long, you're gonna have a fucking stroke. So here's the subject that I have presented myself today, which is kids in drag. I have worked with kids going into drag. For the record, the child that I worked with was 11 years old, kind of going into the teenage years, when, shit like that happens. The main point being about Desmond is amazing, and I want to make those kind of separate discussions because I, as someone who took a lot of classes in child psychology, am horrified by what's going on with Desmond is amazing, but the concept of kids in drag in general is not too bad. I see drag and the drag lifestyle a lot like Hollywood, and it's a passion for some kids, whether it be acting or drag. But I look at people like Desmond is Amazing's mother, and I don't want to judge parents. But when I see not only her calling people homophobic when they're clearly not, which I believe reflects badly on the homosexual community, because people, I just realized that my part is off. Wait, wow, I just completely derailed everything because I'm weird like that. It's just something because like my hair is right next to the camera that I am trying to look into. Anyway, I look at her the same way that I look at the parents that allowed their kids to swim in bathing suits around Dan Schneider and the other execs at Nickelodeon. I think it's kind of fucking gross. I know that there is a way to make drag appropriate for kids. Number one, don't have them in a place where 50-year-old men are giving them money. I actually discussed this with my dad because he has to say a very similar opinion to me. I built a lot of my stuff around his opinion. I am not following my dad in a lot of the things, but I asked him about this because I grew up not doing drag but doing cosplay as male characters while being biologically female. Some would argue that the way that I was doing it, it was basically the same thing, but that's beside the point. There are children who want to do this, and I believe that drag is an art just like any other, that I want kids to be able to explore, but I also recognize that there are adults that want to exploit. I do not think that there is any reason why Desmond is Amazing needs to pose in a photo with naked people in it, period. I don't care if it is for art. I think that that is personally very, very weird. And I would love to have a discussion with someone who says otherwise, but I can tell you that when I was around his age, I didn't want to be around naked women. Even though I, at the time, was completely attracted to women, that would have made me severely uncomfortable. And I'm pretty sure that Desmond is Amazing sadly is probably already psychologically damaged. Very Macaulay Culkin-esque, and I hope that he ends up like Macaulay Culkin in that, he probably has like a really, really bad roller coaster, but he eventually comes back on top and is able to get his life together. But I think at this point, a good portion of his early adult life is already ruined because I did not know how to take ketamine until I watched a video of Desmond is Amazing when I was 22. I knew what ketamine was. I have friends who mentioned it and take it, but I had never witnessed someone take it. The fact that that a child is witnessing this drug use is giving them a completely twisted idea of what drag is meant to be. You can have drag without it being sexual. It is hard, just like anything else. Think of movies. There are movies for kids and movies for adults. There are plays for kids and plays for adults. There can be drag for kids and drag for adults. People saying that you shouldn't let kids do drag would be kind of like people saying that you shouldn't let kids finger paint because it's going to stain their clothes. If they are interested in it, let them try it out. Who knows? You know what? Maybe your kid ends up not liking it, but they're more likely to like it if you just suppress their feelings and then they go into their teenage life with so much freedom and they're like, shit, I can do all this stuff. And, they're more likely to end up liking it. Now, that sounds extremely bad, but I am trying to reach out to the people that believe that the drag lifestyle is not the best lifestyle, because I can understand their disposition. I believe that drag has been kind of soiling itself. And I know that that is very gross imagery, and I'm sorry to put that into your head, but you already have the image, and you've probably already heard about the image of a young child being around a bunch of naked people. So, whatever. But I believe that so many loud voices are pretty much stating what they believe to be the popular opinion, which is, of course, their opinion. But then the people like me who come along who are against, kids doing drag in a certain way, but they also believe that they can do drag pretty much. I am a little bit afraid that I am going to get attacked by both sides. Both the people who want children to do drag no matter what, and the people who don't want kids to do drag no matter what. And of course, I know that a large majority of people, I hope, are going to at least understand where I'm coming from with this. Uh, to be completely transparent about this, I have not been in drag for too long. I have been in drag for exactly 2 years, and I have been a part of the drag lifestyle as a 21-year-old for 1 year. So I have not gotten to all of the parts, obviously, but from what I've experienced, I will say that when I was 19, 20, when I was first doing this, I heard and saw a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have, but I was able to cope with it because I was older. I don't think a child could cope with seeing stuff like that. So, to break down, yes, I believe that children should be allowed to do drag. Should they be necessarily encouraged? As encouraged as you would to look at any other creative avenue. My main suggestion is, especially if you're thinking of like boys dressing up as girls. I have, a little rule where I say, if I wouldn't let my daughter dress like that, why would I let my son? That is one big rule that you should probably think of if you're talking to either a parent or you are a parent of someone who wants to do drag. That is a major, major rule. And of course, it's going to be different if you're like a pageant mom or dad, because you recognize that, there are areas where kids can just wear makeup for whatever reason, but, there's that. Uh, you have to have them perform in like very, very controlled environments. I feel weird saying performing for other kids because that sounds extremely creepy, but it's like if kids understand that this is a thing, I think whatever age they're at, they deserve to just know and see what it's like in a very innocent way. Again, I think there needs to be a strictly G rating on drag. And of course, I personally say that drag shouldn't even be a consideration for someone until they're like, well, of course, everywhere is a little bit different when we're talking about kids. I do not want to be mentioning like if you're in your single digits, stay innocent. You don't need to be introduced to anything outside of like, the schoolyard and stuff. Personally, in my opinion. That's repetitive. All right. Fuck. This is why I need editing, because I kind of just forget what I'm talking about and constantly repeat that, oh, this is just my opinion, because some people don't understand that I don't represent drag. I do not represent drag kings. I do not represent the city of Seattle. I do not represent the state of Washington. I represent no one except for myself. And I will say that if I were to grow up, and if I grow up, I mean, with the quarantine and everything else going on, 2 tornadoes in Washington, I am convinced we are all going to die. But if I do grow up and have a kid and they want to be in drag, of course, I will have connections with not only, drag people that, or drag performers that I know are safe. Not that they necessarily do, you know, only G-rated stuff because I don't even do G-rated stuff, but I would not show my kids the performances that I've done so far. I would not personally show them that until they were in high school, but that's just, how I perform. I would try to find people who can see drag beyond a sexual thing. It is not about sex. It is about gender. It is about what is perceived as the gender of whatever this alter ego identifies as, mostly them being the opposite gender. It's an exploration of being physically one person and then being able to also be physically another. It's a magic show almost. It's very much like magic. And I do think that kids deserve to have that. And I don't know if you can hear that. My parents are just laughing downstairs. I think kids deserve to experience that. And I hope, or no, sorry, I go back on that. And it's one of those cases of I don't know what I hate more, people that say that, their kid can't do drag, or someone who just throws their clearly queer questioning kid, just, tossing them to the people that have, the biggest name. That is my biggest, that is my problem with a lot of the drag community, is that I get the sense that they care mostly about getting into the public eye, which I understand. We really need to kind of shape up the queer community and have it take form in media. It's going really, really good, and I think that making choices with kids, especially because, to think of the children, kids are kind of the heart of everything because, that's it's kind of in our DNA to do that, to take care of kids. Even if you don't want kids of your own, you still care about the next generation. That's what you're meant to do. And I can't understand how a lot of drag performers, whether they want to like save face or something, they just don't mention this. And I guess not mentioning it is better than approving of it. But I just want to go out straight up and say I am a drag king. I don't know how long I'll be doing this for, whether I'll be doing this when I have kids, and I want kids to be able to express themselves in that way. But with the climate that's going on right now, I fear that some parents, are not going to know who to trust and who to go to, or worse, they don't care. And it's going to look bad on us when bad queer people get a hold of kids and then just shape them into something really, really toxic, because there are bad queer people out there. There are bad drag queens. There are some people there are drag queens who are sexual offenders, and probably a drag king out there too. I'm not going to try to shelter that. It is very rare in the grand scheme of things. I don't even know if there's a drag king that's been accused of sexual assault. In the one time that there was that I'm familiar with, it almost seemed more like the sexual predator was doing drag in order to get to the kids, which is an even scarier thought. But I I wish that there was an answer for awful people, but the answer to having happy kids, it's not to shield them from something that they clearly already know about. Do I think that it should be, as glorified as it is? Absolutely not. I think that there is uh, a lot to drag that sometimes people don't quite understand. And, whether it's an extremely positive or negative view, if they're a child, you know, anyone who's under the age of 18 has an interest in it. I don't want the drag community as a whole to get blamed for something that a small amount of people are doing, which is why I want to end this by saying, first of all, I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a stammerer. I'll try to get better at this, but also, just stay safe, be nice to those around you, and ultimately be the change that you want to see. See ya.